Motion exists all around us, and it is essential to make the world go round. Driving to work and drinking a cup of coffee are both examples of motion. However, with motion come hazards. What is motion? Motion is defined as change in a position of an object with time. There are 4 types of motion: translational motion, periodic motion, rotational motion, and random motion. Motion hazards are both natural and mechanical. Rain and wind are examples of natural sources, while using tools and operating machinery are examples of mechanical sources. The 2 motion hazards we will highlight are dust and blind spots. Dust is a generic term for particles less than 500 microns in diameter, about 1/10 the size of a typical fruit fly. There is a large range of sizes for dust particles. Smaller particles remain airborne for longer periods of time. Particles smaller than 10 microns can cut human lungs. How is dust related to motion? Common activities that create dust are grinding, sanding, stone and wood cutting, drilling, sweeping, and demolition. All of these are examples of dust caused by motion. The main types of construction dust are silica dust, which comes from concrete, mortar, and sandstone, wood dust, which comes from carpentry work and tree trimming, and asbestos, which can be found in old insulation and old pipes. Why do we care? Dust can cause illnesses such as silicosis, which causes inflammation of the lungs, leading to hardening and scarring of the lung tissue. This makes it much more difficult to breathe. This is the amount of silica dust that is safe to inhale in one day. It is next to a penny for size reference. Lung cancer, COPD, occupational asthma, and mesothelioma are other dust-related diseases. Dust is a slow killer. Some ways of controlling dust are to spray water on dusty surfaces, use a vacuum instead of a broom, have general good housekeeping on site, and dispose of dusty items in a controlled manner. We performed an experiment showing the benefits of wearing a mask in a dusty environment. Gauze inside the apparatus caught the dust and acted as a person's lungs. The bottom of the tank was covered in sawdust. For 30 seconds, we blew air into the tank with a hairdryer, creating a very dusty environment. Air could only escape the tank through the lungs. This picture shows the 2 fake lungs after the demonstration. As you can see, wearing a dust mask eliminates nearly all dust from the lungs, whereas the lungs were completely covered in dust when no mask was worn. So the best thing one can do to eliminate dust hazards is to wear a mask. Remember, just putting it on is not enough. Fit it right. Moving on to a much larger scale, blind spots can be instantaneous killers. Blind spots are areas that a machine operator or truck driver cannot see because the equipment blocks their view. This picture shows the blind spots for an excavator. The blind spots are in gray. What makes blind spots so dangerous is in the name: you're blind. Of all accidents involving equipment, almost 88% of struck-bys are struck-bys. Struck-bys almost always happen when the operator did not see a person in time to stop. Blind spots are much worse in reverse. Almost 3/4 of struck-bys happen when the equipment is operating in reverse. It makes sense since it is harder for operators to see when operating backwards. We performed an experiment showing just how bad blind spots can be. In this demonstration, a camera was mounted to the cab of a small child's toy remote-controlled excavator. The camera was shown on a smartphone. A course was set and the driver had to drive the excavator through the course only looking at the smartphone. A side-by-side video shows what the driver can see versus what an outside observer can see. As you can see, it is very difficult for the driver to see his surroundings. In order to prevent these kinds of accidents, wear high-visibility clothing, use backup alarms, install protective barriers, employ observers, and maintain eye contact with the driver. Being aware of your surroundings is the best way not to get hit. Both dust and blind spots can cause serious injuries or death on construction sites. These injuries are all preventable by wearing the appropriate PPE and recognizing and minimizing the hazards. In conclusion, motion energy cannot be avoided, but its hazards can be controlled.